Thanks very much, Donna. I haven't been referred to as a boy for quite some time, but firstly I'd like to congratulate Dom and Donna and all the QORF team for hosting this event, and certainly to all of you for coming along today. It's great to have these symposium and an opportunity to tell me why my children don't want to play with me anymore. Having taken them bush most of my life, and the fact that they now want to do other things with other people, I struggle to find ways to engage with them and be relevant to them. So I'm hoping that you'll all come up with some brilliant solutions as a result of today. I'd also like to acknowledge my Sport and Rec, Department of National Parks and Wildlife, Queensland Parks and Wildlife Service colleagues who are in the room today. This is very much a joint presentation. Many of them helped me with some of the data and the statistics that I'm going to throw at you through this session, but also flavoured me with the beautiful photos that hopefully you'll get a chance to look at as well. The main purpose of my presentation today was to talk about engaging adults in outdoor recreation, and I took adults to be pretty much 16 plus. So I'm not a baby boomer. I am a young boy of Generation X. But most of the sort of the key people I'm going to talk about today are going to be sort of Generation X and Gen Y type participants, and they are the group that I think pose the greatest challenge to all of us in terms of how we maintain our relevance. The first thing I wanted to talk about was, if I can get my slides to work, was the unique situation that we find ourselves in as a government department at the moment. I'll be pretty frank with you. Back in 2011, 2012, the Queensland Parks and Wildlife Service was dragged kicking and screaming in many ways from the Department of Environment and into what was now termed the Department of National Parks, Sport and Racing. And I think it'd be also fair to say that, Sport and Recreation Queensland was sort of dragged into this department as well, wondering, well, what's the commonalities between these two different groups, the Queensland Parks and Wildlife Service and Sport and Recreation? And as many of you would have probably realised at that time in that government, and this is not a political statement, that was a very deliberate strategy. It was a deliberate move to bring together the environmental sector, the providers of outdoor recreation and spaces, and the sport and recreation sector. And we were embroiled in the following 3 years with a lot of legislative changes to the Nature Conservation Act, new policy, new frameworks, which were very much designed about opening up access. And the term opening up access was used a lot in the rhetoric of that particular political era. But I actually think we're only now truly starting to realise the benefits of that unique marriage. This is one of, when you think about it, there are very few government departments across Australia that have sport and recreation and national parks combined in the one departmental organisation. They're normally split, they normally don't really talk to each other, and we are in a very unique marriage at the moment where we are starting to appreciate the synergies and the opportunities that might arise from being in one department together. And in recent months, there's been the creation of a new whole-of-department policy group called Strategically Policy, Sport, Recreation and Industry Governance. Don't worry about the end bit, because we're still all struggling with how racing fits in. But in saying that, it has and will provide very much an oversight to a collective response to outdoor recreation, and certainly how that engages with our natural places. This is a little bit new, and I'm a bit nervous about presenting it, but we are coming up with a bit of a new vision for what we're all about, which is Queenslanders enriched and connected through healthy parks and active lifestyles. You can obviously see from that statement we're drawing on the Healthy Parks, Healthy People programs that have been very prevalent in Victoria, but we're also acknowledging that active lifestyles are a key to addressing many of our health-related issues across Queensland. And just to share with you a couple of key stats that have come out of the Active Queensland survey, and I think this is forming very much the basis of our future direction. There are some good stats, but there are some also very disturbing ones. 63% of Queenslanders are physically engaged once a week. So that's not bad. That's probably a pretty good reflection that most people are wanting to get out there and be active. 21% of that physical activity is occurring at least once a day. That's not a bad stat. It's certainly better than I'm managing to do at the moment through lack of time. But I think one of the worst issues, or one of the most concerning, is that 25% of Queenslanders are not physically active at all in the last year. So that's 1 in 4 people are not actively engaged in a physical activity over a very long period of time. That's due to a wide range of factors, largely driven around personal interest, but also around the challenge of lack of time. We all appreciate and understand, as mentioned in the earlier presentations before, the challenges that arise from being in busy jobs, being parents, trying to fit it all in the course of one day, without daylight saving, I may add, and the challenges that presents to all of us to be physically active. Some of the other key stats that are coming out of the studies, though, are also very interesting in terms of the number of people that are actively using walking as their primary activity, the places that people are using to be physically active. So roads and streets represent 45% of the places that people want to undertake an active recreational activity. 41% are using walking paths. And the interesting other 2 factors that we've put up there as part of the infographic are that 85% of Queenslanders are not exercising directly with a club, and that 41% are actively recreating within 10 kilometres of their home.
So you're saying 45% of people want to actively
are using
roads and streets?
are mainly using roads and streets. Not so much that they want to, but they're using roads and streets as their recreational destination. So how are we using this information to inform some of our decision making? And also, some of the other preliminary results out of the 2016 survey that's just been concluded are that national parks, not surprisingly, are key locations for bushwalking, mountain biking, interestingly enough, motorsports, which we expect, I don't know if we've got the clear distinction on the data, but we expect that's mainly around trail biking and obviously orienteering and road gaining. But one of the key things, I think, is that many people are looking for outdoor recreation activities close to home. So what does all that information tell you? It tells you that people like going to natural places, people are wanting to recreate in a natural setting, that people are looking at outdoor environments as their playgrounds, that walkers, runners and cyclists are the key outdoor space users, and the trends indicate that people are seeking to connect with nature as part of their active recreation experience. And I cannot underestimate, or understate I should say, the importance of natural urban settings in this context. I would love to think that national parks are the primary focus and destination for most people participating in outdoor recreation. But I think the real key objective for us is those natural environments that sit within the core urban interface of our cities and our metropolitan regions. They are the places that people can get to easily. Most of our national parks are often within an hour or 2 hours drive. But it's those urban natural environments that provide the real focus and energy where we can invest to increase participation in recreational use. I also think that we as a department are maturing in our view, in that recreation in national parks previously has very much been about nature-based recreation. Bird watching is what we consider to be the primary objective of national parks for many years. Bushwalking, maybe camping, but we have seen a complete and fundamental change in the way people are using outdoor open spaces. It's now about adventure, discovery, exploration, testing your skill, engaging in dramatic experiences. You've only got to look at Red Bull film clips to understand the whole market has changed. And I certainly believe, and I think I can be pretty upfront in saying this, that has been a challenge for us. Having come from a very conservation-based focus, we now have to shift our thinking, and we have been digitally disrupted in many ways, or I shouldn't say digitally disrupted, we've just been disrupted by the changing face of outdoor recreation. The people are wanting to use natural spaces for very different things that we have not previously contemplated, and that will only change at a dramatic rate into the future. So don't let that spook you though, because I think there's a lot of good things to be learnt from that. So what are some of the things that we've been doing to respond to these shifting expectations? We've made some very significant investments in mountain biking. Many of you will have been aware that one of our teams was successful in winning a QORF award for a lot of their work at Atherton last year. And the Atherton mountain bike facility represents close to $750,000 worth of investment over a 3-year period. But a lot of it was done with the community. So very close collaboration with mountain biking groups, trail care organisations, and all have benefited significantly from those sorts of investments, particularly in locations where it is close to an urban centre. It's right on the doorstep of Atherton, and it has completely changed the economic prosperity and recreational livelihood of that community. We've had other great success stories in the department in recent years through major events, Oxfam Trailwalker Challenge, Kokoda Challenge. A number of these events, which we have been actively supporting and sponsoring, have helped us to change the perception of how outdoor spaces could and should be used. That people are now seeing that these places are accessible, that they are in fact perfect for the active outdoor recreation that we're trying to get. And if I can get my friend up the back to help me with, do I go forward? I just thought I'd share with you a little bit of footage from the World Cup downhill mountain biking event in Smithfield Conservation Park up in Cairns from earlier this year. That was an eye-opening event for me. We had international world-class competitors, but what struck me the most was the spectators. That the entire Cairns community turned up in droves to watch an international event and to participate in seeing cycling on a world scale. And I saw hundreds of families with their kids staggering up hillsides in the rainforest just to get to the best locations to watch those downhill cyclists. So in its own right, not only did it bring a huge recognition to mountain biking as an outdoor activity, but it also dragged bucket loads of families out of their bedrooms and into the bush, the rainforest, World Heritage Rainforest for that matter, for a whole day of excitement. And you cannot believe how many people probably left that event and bought a mountain bike and spent the next 6 months taking their kids mountain biking at places like Atherton Mountain Bike Park. So I just thought I'd share with you an event, and if you get to go to the World Championships in September this year, please do so. It's a complete eye-opener. There are some great examples of investments that we've made in trails, whether it's the South Mole. Ride the Mole was a terrible terminology that was used by some marketing professionals a year ago, but it is one of those spectacular locations and destinations for mountain biking. So if you do get the opportunity, there are some places like that to explore, and also things like the Nagara kayaking and canoe sea trail. Some more recent, and obviously just providing opportunities for ongoing free and independent travellers and commercial tourism access to some of our most natural places is a key part about our business, and something that we recognise must be supported and ongoing. So what are some of the new initiatives that we're planning to further respond to these shifting expectations? And the key one I wanted to talk about today was the gateway centres. That we've identified, places like Daguerre National Park, the largest national park within 13 kilometres of a capital city anywhere in Australia, but many of you didn't know that statistic, has gone largely unrecognised for a long time. And very simple things like opening up access to the dam to provide people with a place to actually take a kayak or a stand-up paddleboard has been met with an extraordinary response. We have had thousands of people flocking to that site now just because access was provided to the dam. So it was a great example of collaboration between the state government and SEQ Water, but a very simple answer to a problem, and a problem that was largely unrecognised and undervalued. And what we've also realised that these gateway locations, places like Walkabout Creek at the Gap, Daisy Hill, Flays Wildlife Centre, Monrepos in Bundaberg, provide great opportunities for people to visit and showcase what our national parks and open spaces are all about. And doing things like mountain bike skills parks, providing nature play spaces, digging pits, dinosaur nodes, kayaking, even a commercial operator now is providing, dare I say it, what are those things called? These segways? I should know that, shouldn't I, Michael? There's a whole range of activities that are now flourishing at these centres, which I think will just grow and expand their potential. Some other things I wanted to share with you, which you may not be aware of, are just the level of investment and the opportunities that are provided by some of our outdoor recreation centres. So at Tallabudgera, down on the south coast, and at Curramundi on the north coast, we have these fantastic facilities with some of the best outdoor adventure facilities in the world. So the caving system, if you haven't already had a chance to get to Curramundi, the new caving system is the first of its type, certainly nationally, if not the first of its type internationally in a location like that. And by opening up some of these centres for recreational use on weekends to families, we're getting more bang for buck in terms of appreciation and acknowledgement of those facilities and what they can provide. We've had some great success with targeted programs. So in the Sport and Recreation Services part of our department, Join the Movement, Start Playing, Stay Playing have been very successful in targeting particular demographic groups and dealing with or addressing some of those issues we found before about the barriers to participation, and actually not only just getting them there but getting them to stay there as well. I think one of the biggest challenges for us as a department though is how do we connect with and engage with the younger generation, with Generation X, Generation Y and maybe even Generation Z. Facebook, how many of you joined to our Queensland National Parks Facebook page? 1, 2. How many of you are on Facebook? That's telling. That is absolutely telling to me in terms of what we have to do. That if we want to truly, what we're discovering in government is that if you want to engage with and be relevant to other generations, you have to start playing in their playing field. And Facebook, as much as some of you may hate it, is one of the key ways in which to connect with the younger generation.
Can I give you a little plug there? Your Facebook page is awesome.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Tom. I can't take any credit for that, but we have got an awesome team that puts a massive amount of work into thinking of bright, shiny ideas that will attract people to national parks.
Before, and like, I look at my feed, that's everything.
Yeah.
Everything comes up, like, it's huge, and it's everything that we're talking about.
And my son only signed me up to Red Bull the other day. I wasn't really aware of it, but in terms of inspiring you to go out and do stuff in the outdoors, the Red Bull Facebook page is fantastic. I couldn't tell you the number of times I've seen a Red Bull feed come through and go, well, I'm going to do that next. Maybe jumping from a plane with a wingsuit is a bit unusual. Sorry.
Everyone's got their phones here, Jason. Why don't you get them to like it and join now?
Yep. Good. My challenge for today is for all of you to at least go to the Queensland National Parks Facebook page and like it, and you'll be very surprised by what you discover on that page. But I think some of the other things that we've done is about changing the way we promote our national parks. So you'll see our pamphlets and our brochures have gone from being very sort of natural and soft to things like, experience the journey, adventure, discover, explore. We're trying to change the way that we engage and the types of people that we engage with. Some of the other things I wanted to talk to you about are some of the emerging initiatives. So what are we going to do in the future to engage more with the community? And there's some great initiatives at play. The Daisy Hill Directions paper went out for public consultation just recently, is looking at a completely new way in which Daisy Hill, which is a composite of multiple land tenures, can be used for both conservation but also recreation, and I'm sure you've been participating in that process. We're also actively looking and working with Rockhampton City Council at Mount Archer to identify how that significant urban national park can contribute to the central Queensland community. And I think everyone in Rockhampton sees it in the background every day. They drive past it, but they don't know how to access it. And maybe we haven't provided the types of facilities that they need to actively engage with Mount Archer as a natural place. And I think I was going to put this forward. I'm hoping Rob can run this in the background, but this was a great little initiative from the US Park Service, and it demonstrates how they're trying to engage with the younger community. So that was a deliberate strategy for the US Park Service 100-year centenary, and it's a great example, I think, about if you want to be relevant, you have to put yourselves in the shoes of your clients, which means sometimes being a bit creative and a bit innovative. Thank you very much for your time.